Welcome back. You're still watching Wake Up Nigeria, and right about now it's time for health. We have Dr. Omoloabake Okunubi, a physician with over 16 years medical experience. She's definitely set to give answers to the question, how can families living with asthma live symptoms-free? She definitely is an asthma advocate with a postgraduate qualification in public health management with good understanding of the Nigerian healthcare space. She's passionate about reducing the morbidity and mortality of asthma in Nigeria and Africa as a whole. Thank you definitely for coming, and welcome to Wake Up Nigeria again. Okay, so now this is a very, very important conversation because we actually have or know a number of family members that actually have this thing called asthma, and it's not scarce, especially in this Nigeria. Right, so now, answering the question, how can we live symptom-free? What are the steps or things we need to be aware of to be able to live symptom-free?
Thank you very much. Like you rightly said, asthma is very more common than we think.
Yes,
I
very
think
true.
at the last survey that was done, about 10% of Nigerians do have it. So that's quite a lot. And unfortunately, just about 6% out of the whole 100% of asthma patients that we have are controlled. That means about 6% of them are living right with asthma. So that's really worrisome.
Oh, yeah.
Last week we started this discussion regarding how to live symptom-free, and I think I was saddened by the fact that everybody that reached out to me afterwards are not on controllers. I mean, a lot of asthma patients don't even understand what it means. You know, I think that really saddened me. You know, we started by looking at 3 different ways to ensure that we control asthma. And one of the first things that I talked about was education, where, I mean, I don't think we can even overemphasize how to live symptom-free. So this is like an add-on, basically. Talking about education, family getting educated, sufferers getting educated.
Yes.
And that's like what we're doing now, educating people on how to ensure that they live symptom-free. The second part is identifying your triggers and avoiding it. Okay. Now, the last part, which I always refer to as a very important aspect, is the controllers. Of course, the controllers, the triggers, avoidance of triggers is as important as the controllers as well. Controllers are the medications that you then take on a daily basis to control your symptoms. And you find that a lot of patients that are on controller medications, which they take to prevent their symptoms, actually do live symptom-free.
Okay.
Yes, I mean, up until you can have as much as, a high number of patients being on controller medications. And what the controller medication does is sort of give some form of stability to the airway and prevent the inflammation. That's the swelling that usually an ongoing process in the airway of asthma patients. Okay. And, like I said last week, that if there's anyone, anybody listening, that you have any friends, family, or even you as an asthma patient, you are not on a controller medication, you need to speak to your doctor today and tell that doctor that, look, I need to be on controller medications. A lot of doctors are aware, and of course there's so many forums where controllers are being discussed among doctors, where there's education for doctors as well, so that we can move from patients coping with their symptoms to actually controlling their symptoms. And by control, it just means that they're symptom-free, okay? And because a lot of people wonder, when you say control, what does that mean? It just simply means that you can go about your daily activities without your symptoms. You can cook your food without having your symptoms. You can, be a footballer. I mean, there's so many, people that have done well. For instance, the likes of David Beckham, I usually use him as an example. He's a top footballer, a known asthmatic patient, and look at where he is. So asthma shouldn't actually stop you from achieving,
living normal life.
The best or, whatever you want to be. And so controller is, we can't overemphasize the importance of being on controllers, Asthma is not a death sentence anymore. It's not something that people would say, look, I have asthma, my whole world is ending. Absolutely not, because the controllers are there to help. And, with minimal or no side effects whatsoever. And so I encourage everyone to ensure that they are on their controller medication.
Now it's very important. The first part you spoke about education. Now, I will actually say this because a lot of people I know, they literally live symptom by symptom. what I mean by that is that they actually wait until they get to that attack, exactly, and then they now start rushing to the hospital or probably using their inhaler or things like that. And everybody thinks, oh, the inhaler, once you have it, that's good, right? And all of that. So it's important for people to actually know. Now, the question I have is this. Okay, you spoke about 3 things, right? Yeah. Avoiding your triggers as well. So now some people actually makes it for, okay, fine, if I can take controller medication, I don't necessarily need to avoid my triggers. So now, can you clarify that? Yes.
Yes. So, let me start from the bit of the education part. And you said something that people living by symptom to symptom. No asthma patient know which symptom would kill them, and asthma is deadly. I mean, you can have one symptom today, and then that's the end. So it's very important. I mean, education is also very important. Now, regarding avoidance of trigger and controllers. Now, the normal thing is that for most patients that are on controllers, even though you're on controller, your inflammation is reduced, your airway is stable because of the medication you're taking, we still advise you as medical practitioners as much as possible to avoid your triggers, okay? And so that's not to mean that, because I'm on my controller medication, I must let go of, all the precautions, basically. It's just precautionary. Because even when they're on controllers, sometimes they may have what you call the breakthrough attacks. And that's why we encourage patients that even when you're on controllers, avoid your triggers, okay? The likelihood of having your exacerbations, as having the attack, as we usually would call it, is slimmer when you are controlled compared to a patient that is not on controllers whatsoever.
Okay, that actually makes a whole lot of sense. So now, speaking about asthma generally, what would you say, personally to you, is the need for this advocacy? Like, what brought you to this path?
So basically, for me, I think it's, past experience with patients with asthma. Of course, I've lost a couple of friends, colleagues with asthma. And over the years, I got to realize that, there are actually ways for rather than people suffering. And of course, basically where I've also worked, okay, has given me some form of exposure to asthma and realizing that, wow, there's actually a better way to actually prevent exacerbation. And I mean, a lot of this death are, they're not, they're senseless, avoidable as it were. I've had, too many patients that have died because they're not on controllers, they're only, dependent on this relievers. We call them relievers. Relievers are the ones you take when you have the attack, okay? A lot of people are very familiar with it, that they take them on a daily basis when they have not on a daily basis, so when they have their exacerbations. We all know this common medication that they use. And so I realized that, for my previous experiences and exposures, I've learned that, there's actually a better way. And so seeing people, just recently, about last week or 2 weeks ago, I heard another friend of mine out of this country actually died as well from asthma. And it just hurts. It's painful when you realize that this is actually preventable. So every time I have the opportunity to talk about it, to educate people, my colleagues, my friend, I'm just always there to do it because it's actually, death from asthma is preventable and no one should die from their symptoms.
Definitely, absolutely. So now, talking about these controllers, how accessible and affordable are they? Because we know healthcare in Nigeria is solely based on you and your family, or if you're working in an organization that actually handles that, right? But now, these controllers, of course, you go to the hospital, the doctor might say, okay, fine, get these and everything. How accessible, how affordable are they?
Okay, so, of course, I'm not oblivious of the issues that we have in terms of economic situation in Nigeria. A lot of people cannot even afford things. But is death more affordable than, that's the way I look at it. That would you rather, death that it's not even, you can't even quantify it in terms of naira and kobo. When you lose someone, that's the end. Or you have to go daily to the hospital. If you're not on controller, that means you're in and out of the hospital on a daily basis. Look at the effect it will have. If you're a mom, for instance, and you have a child that has asthma, that means, for instance, if I have a child that has asthma, and I have to be in the hospital, I can't be here this morning. All right, if I have asthma, I can't be here in the morning. The effect on look at the ripple effect on people, my colleagues. Look at the cost of going in and out of hospital. If I'm a market woman, I sell goods and I make a daily living. If I have to be in the hospital to see with a child, that means I can't be there that day. So when you look at all of that and compare it to the cost of the medication, I've had costs to look at what the cost is. I think it's way less compared to
I totally understand.
Yeah.
Of course, the value cannot be placed on life.
Absolutely.
When it comes to monetary. But however, the money itself, people don't actually have it. When you think about it that way, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But then again, people don't even have the money. So I just hope that there are cheaper alternatives, some way to just help us balance all of that. But then again, in all cases, thank you so much for coming. Definitely amazing talking to you about this. So right about now, we have Mazino in the kitchen. Mazino, what's happening there?